Johanna, are you ready?
Hold on, I'm almost ready.
Are you here? Whatever.
Are you shuffling?
I was waiting for you. Hello.
What's
Johanna,
happening?
What's happening with you? Happy super blue moon and what else? Retrograde.
Every effing planet is in retrograde right now. I'm just going to say where I'm ungrounded. I'm pretty sure Tanya is ungrounded, which is a rare event to see. And yeah, that's just where we're at because this energy is for the mystics. It's my energy. It's for the woo-woo aliens of the world.
The woo-woo aliens.
I'm telling you. And it's the last sign in the zodiac. So there's a lot of shit hitting the fan.
And there's it's 6 planets. I think it's up to 6 planets in retrograde.
I'm pretty sure all of them are in retrograde. I think it's 6 or 7. And because Uranus just went into retrograde. And and it's conjunct Saturn, which is gnarly on the body. So if anybody is having body issues or any kind of pain or discomfort, it's Saturn's fault. I'm giving you permission to blame Saturn.
So, but this is something I typically have all the time, or body issues, or not those kind of body issues. You're talking about like ailments, not like body image issues.
I mean, you could be having those too, shit.
Because the first thing I thought was like, are we having body issues here where we're not quite comfortable in what we are?
I don't know. I have been doing a new thing. So
what's that?
I've had body dysmorphia my entire life from just being told I was fat as a kid. Oh. And so when I was a teenager, I was 17. He wasn't my first husband yet. But anyway, I was a size 2. Man, you could have bounced a freaking quarter off my thighs. They were so toned. But I'm German heritage. We're built thick. I'm sorry. We just are built thick. We are stocky on the bottom. And
stocky.
We are. We just are that way. But my first husband would tell me how fat my legs were, how big my legs were. So this complex just developed. So anyway, long story short, I have been wearing like basically Daisy Dukes and cutoff shorts because I'm like, I am going to have a love affair with my fucking thighs. And I'm going to love them. I'm going to have thick thighs because they save lives and it's going to be a great day. And they're going to be tan and thick and wonderful. Fuck it. I'm owning it.
You're owning it.
Yeah. I've just been rocking around and basically with half my ass hanging out with shorts on, just going, hey, it's me.
It's kind of like, and I have to laugh because I know this was a trend for a while. They were calling it on TikTok. And actually, I just was watching a newscaster like laughing on there. And he goes, there's this new thing going on in the TikTok world where people are now dating themselves. And it's called masturbating. Did you see? But I had to laugh because I was like, and he's laughing. And his co-host is kind of laughing with him. But the first thing I thought with that was like, there's a name for it. Like, man, I've been master dating myself for years.
It's the best thing.
And that's always the advice I give to individuals. Even when I do readings, anytime when someone's going through stuff, I'm like, do you date yourself? And they're like, what? I'm like, yeah, like, this isn't just Miley Cyrus flower song. Like, this is like getting to know yourself. Like this is really enjoying that. So I think it's kind of cool that you're having a relationship with your body.
My thighs.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, I'm sure people have noticed who follow me that my TikTok has kind of taken on a wild life of its own. Like there's no direction on my TikTok. It's just kind of a whatever the fuck I feel like posting kind of thing. But I've done a lot of dances, and I do them. I live in gym clothes. Let's just be real. That's my uniform. But I don't like clothes. So it's like people think that I'm like trying to be. I get judged a lot. Oh, you're showing your body or whatever. I'm like, dude, I love my body, and the fact that I'm showing you my body and I'm dancing, showing you my skin, that should tell you something. It is. So it's like people think that I'm doing it for attention. It's like, no, I'm showing myself attention. I'm showing myself that I'm like, I am proud of you. I'm going to show you off, you know? And so it's like, it's a different mentality. And I'm seeing more of that. I'm seeing more of women who are like, we're not doing this to get guys. We're not doing this to be like, oh, look at me. We're doing this because it's like, fuck, look at me. Like, good for you, you know? So and all body types, right? Not just people who are fit, because girl, I'm not toned, but so it's like, it doesn't, I don't know. I just think positive.
It's very different. I think but I think it also happens different with age as well. You know, I think at a certain age, you just stop giving not an F about what you look like. Some people do, you know, some people ignore it completely. Others, it's more this level of, I don't give an F what others think.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm enjoying myself. So it's kind of a new phase for a lot, but I think there's a maturity thing that I can look at it in that level. Is I'm like, I think it's just really a maturity of, you know, releasing all of that trauma and fear that, you know, everybody's looking when 9 of 10, nobody's even looking or watching you.
No, sorry, you guys, I am so
like perfect example with her wiping her pits on the channel.
I have been so sweaty lately. I can't help it. It's like pouring out of me. I gotta say this because you just said that. Have you seen? I'll have to send you the TikTok, but there's a guy who does this weird dance, and he's like doing it everywhere in all these places, right? So he does it in the intersection, like of like LA or something, like a major intersection, right? So someone's filming him doing this dance. You see all these people crossing the road. There's like probably 40, 50 people, maybe probably even 100. Not one person looks at him. Like nobody really cares. Nobody's paying attention to you.
But you know what's funny? Because this is kind of cool, because we unintentionally did this tonight when we said, we're not sure what we're going to be talking about. Let's just see what happens kind of thing.
Yeah.
Well, I have been fascinated because you know how much I love personality tests and everything when it comes to people and what makes a person make them feel like whether they're a hero or they're villain, or if they're a good guy or they're just a complete asshole. So this is a perfect example of what you're stating here, because I found when I was doing some of the stuff, looking at it, that there's an actual test that people call the shopping cart theory. And this is something that kind of happened on Reddit, but it's been out for a while, so a lot of people know about it. But it's basically how to judge someone's moral character. Do you return the cart, or are you absolutely the filthiest savage of the world who just leave it in the middle of motherfucking nowhere?
Do you know that this is a question on my motherfucking dating profile? I want to know, do you put your shopping cart back?
I believe it.
Because it shows if you're considerate.
Yeah. So isn't it funny where there's some things where nobody gives a flying F what's going on, but then when the shopping cart comes in there, oh, that's when everybody's watching.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's other things too.
There's actually a whole TikTok and YouTube account called TikTok Cart Narcs.
Yes, and I think they're the ones
crazy.
who were basically looking at the shopping cart theory. I think that's how it kind of came about, was the cart narcs, where they're yelling at people going up to their cars and people are freaking out. Get the camera away.
I think that's a little too much, but I had a guy who responded to my profile. He's like, I put my shopping cart, because that's what they always say. I put my shopping cart back, and I want to be like, do you want a fucking cookie? But he's like, what did he say? Oh, he's like, I follow cart narcs, and that's when I found out about it. It's a little aggressive for me, but yeah, I thought that was kind of funny.
It's kind of like the Curb Your Enthusiasm episode where the guy had pulled in and parked on double parking, and Larry looked at him and he's like, you happy with that parking job? You happy? And the guy's like, yeah, I'm okay with these. Like, yeah, you sure? But that's really what you look at it, because you're like, you've now created a problem. You know, it's looking at that way now. And if you look at a person's judgment when they do that, now there's been times where I have accepted the asshole too, right? Where it's like, listen, I'm going to have to be that jerk that rides down to the medium because I know I got an appointment down the road. And if I just go now, I'm going to make it on time.
Yeah.
I remember my brother and I, when we were at Comic-Con or trying to drive to it and we were getting kind of late, and he just looked at me and we saw that this construction was coming. And I'm like, I could ride the medium. And he just looked at me and goes,
Be the asshole.
the asshole. And I'm like, I can't do it. And he's like, you have to. He's like, we're going to be here or we could, go down the road and we're going to be at Fuddruckers. Like, what's the choice? And I was like, I'm going to be the asshole.
I remember you telling me that, and I take that now. I use that now. Anytime I'm like if I cut someone off by accident or do something, I'm like, sorry, I'm just the asshole today. Yeah. I just own it. I'm
going to embrace that journey of just being that jerk.
Yeah. And then today, so one of the house sits that I did, the one I was in downtown San Diego, the wife, homeowner, she wanted to take me to lunch today. So we go to lunch and we're leaving, and I stopped at a stop sign, and I took a little bit longer because I was trying to figure out my map, and I was on my own divine timing, so whatever.
Yeah.
And the guy behind me is like laying on the horn, and she was getting upset, and she was like, she said something, and I said, she said, people are so grumpy. She's like getting upset. I thought she was about ready to cuss the guy out. And right. You would not. This is like the most soft spoken. She's an English teacher. She was teaching English in Africa. So like you just wouldn't have expected it. And was so unbothered by it. I was like, oh, he can be grumpy. I said, we're meeting people most of the time on their worst days. We don't know what the hell they're going through. So let them be grumpy.
No idea.
I don't know. It's just it's like a thing. I just don't get. I don't get triggered anymore by it. I get like zero road rage. I'm just like, whatever. You can honk at me. Cool. Hope that made you feel better, buddy.
I'm kind of the similar way where it's like, I will take pause knowing we have no idea what that person went through, that they could be that bad. Mm-hmm. But also there's times here where if you're also having a bad day and you hit another asshole things, there's going to be a time where you're just going to turn around and be the jerk again.
Yeah.
So I have been in both shoes where it's like, all right, I'm going to match your power right back at you. Right. Cause I'm deflecting now too. So I've been on both sides. I think it just depends on the scenario. Right.
Yeah. But it made her change her perspective though. She's like, you know what? You're so right. And then she's like, wanted to know more. And I was like, well, another thing I do is like, if I go out and if I have a thought pop into my head, like, oh my God, her outfit looks so good, or her lipstick is great, or her hair looks so nice, or she has such a pretty smile, or she has a nice ass, whatever it is, I will go up to that person, I'll whisper it in their ear, and it always makes their day, and it makes my day because I made them smile. But, and that came about because I have had over the last, 10 years, a lot more bad days than I have had good. And the very few times that someone has said something like that to me literally changed my energy in seconds. I could have been having a real, I can't remember exact moments, but I do know there was one time when I was in a grocery store and I was just having the worst day. And someone, usually my hair is the first thing people compliment, or whatever. And so someone said something really sweet to me, and it literally, like, I forgot why I was sad. And it like changed the direction of my entire day. And so now I'm like, when that thought pops in, it's popping in for a reason. I'm going to say it to them. Some people, 95% of them are very receptive to it. But some people are like, you're being a weirdo. But I'm like, whatever.
I don't think so. I mean, I compliment all the time, especially when it comes to fashion. And you know how I love, me, I love loud, I love big. So if someone is looking that way, I absolutely
want to encourage it.
Standing out, because I'm that person. I like to stand out with my clothes and stuff and some of the stuff that I wear. But it's not for the attention. I just love art and I'm passionate about stuff. So I like to wear it,
Yeah, it's your expression.
Yeah, but surprisingly, I don't have tattoos. But I think it's because I changed so much. That's why I changed my hair color, changed my makeup. I'm like the David Bowie inspired girl, like I really love costumes and, that kind of stuff. But
you need like a whole case of temporary tattoos.
Yes. All over me. Yes. Today I'm badass Tanya.
This week it's this thing.
I mean, if I look at some of the pictures of like, just scrolling back, we did this. Remember, you actually pulled this up. You sent me a picture of me and said,
Yeah.
"Who is this chick?" And I was like, "Yeah, that was the wounded Tanya who spiritually bypassed everything."
It was a trip because it came up because I think that's when I think that was the first season of Breakdown.
Yeah. Oh
And you were temporary. Yeah, funny. I'm temporary, but you were temporary. And I'm looking at this picture and I'm like, oh my God. Like you were so much more in your feminine then. And you were
so my feminine.
You were like, I didn't recognize you. I was like, I don't know that, Tanya.
And
like,
that's the one you met. You met.
I know.
And the funny part is I was taking a course in feminine energy midway when we met. Like it wasn't like right in the beginning, but you really did hit because when I had gone through down to my rock bottom, I had to pull it. I missed my mom so badly. And when I was at the point where I just didn't want to be here anymore, I really felt her energy. And I just remember how beautiful my mom was. And so I just, would think of how she always put lipstick on in the morning and how she always showed up for herself in the mornings and she always used to look in the mirror and stuff like that. So I pulled a lot of her energy in. I don't think I would have started my Mastering Mirror or any of that work without thinking of, my mom and having that memory of her, which is not, I mean, me, I didn't have a great relationship with my mom. She was probably one of the ones who wounded me, in a very high level when I was younger. But to see her in a different light when she's passed and knowing that connection I have with her mediumship, it's just, there's no ego there anymore. Yeah. So I just fully felt her energy. And she was one, and and obviously my best friend who's over on the other side, but I think both of their energy, because they were both very feminine, really helped me get in my feminine. So yeah. But go ahead now. It's just,
I can feel, it's so weird that because as you're talking about them, so for those of you guys that don't know, like I have developed a relationship with Tanya's mom and with Tanya's best friend, whose name is Tanya. And that happened before Tanya and I really got super close, because I think her best friend Tanya kind of drew us together. But as she was talking about her mom, I could feel them both come in. And I was going to say Tanya, and then you said your best friend. And I almost got emotional because they got so close. I was like, oh, they're here.
And they 100% were my guides through. I mean, my lowest point, guys, was my suicide, when I was really focusing on that. But I think about those times where, I had those suicidal thoughts and how I felt just knowing I was connected with them. But I really wanted to talk to them. So I was seeking out mediums and, things where I started to explore more in that psychic capability. But I was really in the dark night of the souls when I met you. So it was really wild when you sent me that photo, because I was like, I look so different. And I also look so confused. So confused.
But you were, because you were in transition.
Yeah.
You gone through a divorce. I mean, it's funny because you and I have always paralleled, and we kind of slingshot back and forth of when we do things, right? So obviously this was my third divorce and my third starting over, but I was watching you start over, and you walked away from so much. And then a couple of years, 5 years later, I did the same exact thing for the third time. And it's just like watching it was like, wow, like it's just crazy.
Yeah.
How we look and how we change our identity so much. And we step more, because this is authentically you. This is you.
Yeah. This is the healthy version of me that I was really trying to get back to. And I wasn't that healthy at 21, but I feel the strongest of her energy. Who was more free-spirited and confident and making moves and, being more in that level. But there are still things that we all have, we're constantly expanding, we're constantly growing, and finding ourselves. And, just because even going through, my divorce, I had to go through another heartbreak. And then I had to go through, the realms of dating in 2020, which, I will admit I picked the pandemic over dating, because the dating pool was horrific. It was not a good experience for me. But if I didn't go through it, I wouldn't have been able to say I'm not ready, because that was such a trauma response with going from somebody who broke my heart after my marriage, and then reliving that again and trying to go jump in it, I knew really quick. I went from 13 years of doing that to 6 months of being in a horrific situation, and then again jumped shipped again, and then realized it in a week that there's something off, and I was like, I'm done. I need to work on me.
Right. Well, I mean, I took two full years off of dating when I left Paul, and I literally had no interest in dating because I had finally saw the pattern of that I had missed, right? So Paul was a big slap in my face. For me, I had to take accountability of, oh my God, I literally called this in. Like this was, I walked, you look back at your patterns, and I broke the chain, but I was like, I have to grieve. And what people don't talk about with anything, it's not just divorce, it's friendships. Because let me tell you, 2022, was it 2022 when I started my nomad journey? Well, let's just say over the last 10 years, since 2016. So what is that? 7 years. So that's about right. Over the last 7 years, I have lost 2 best friends that I was friends with for a very long time. And then of course I lost my dad. And then of course I, left my husband. But in that time, the thing that I noticed the most is not necessarily that I was grieving them. Yes, that's there, but I was grieving the life that I thought I was going to have. I was grieving the things that I thought I was going to do and that time together. And that's the whole thing. Like people, they're like, why do I have so much grief? It's because you have to grieve the potentials that you always bought into, that you always dreamed of, you always thought of, the life you thought you were going to have. Because that, we talk about being multidimensional all the time. We got to remember when we collapse timelines and we integrate aspects of ourself, what do you call them? You call them variants. I call them aspects. So when we integrate variants or aspects, whatever you want to call them, into the heart, and we collapse that timeline, you have to remember that time isn't linear and everything's happening all at the same time. So the past, future, present, all the possibilities, all the things that you did have or could have or would have, all of that has to die in a sense. And so you are really, it's funny because you're like, oh, I didn't know, I'm grieving life I didn't have, or the potentials I didn't have. You actually did have that, right? And that's why it's so strong. It's why the grief is so strong, is because there was a whole fucking timeline where you did have all these things happen. And that's why, because you were in that timeline with all of the collapse, you feel the weight of something so much more than what you're aware of. And this is why I love, that's why I always, everything that I'm going to do from this point is going to have some type of tagline like being human and the illusion, because there's so much that we are not aware of as a human. And that's why people grieving is such a heavy and multi-layered thing, because there's so much we're grieving that we're not even aware of.
And it also is relief. Like when I really saw and tapped into the multiverse and really allowed to accept that, hey, there is a part of me that, is in another reality where I chose that path and it's still going on. It means it exists. And I just felt like, oh, I all of a sudden have relief going, well, at least there's a part of me living it, and I didn't feel like I had to have it, like I just felt like, oh, that's a part of me, even though, and I'm choosing to focus on this right now. But, a lot of people are fearful of tuning or tapping into that version that actually has that path. And this is the disclaimer I give to them every time we do some kind of meditation like this. And we're getting a little bit witchy here. You have to remember that when you're looking or valuing another reality, you are also seeing new choices and opportunities and emotions that may come up that you never expected to see with that version of you.
Right.
So it could actually make you question some of the choices even in your reality. And that, all I can say to you is pay attention to the feeling versus what the hell I did not expect it to go that way. Right. Because a lot of times when I'm walking somebody through this, or they're going through one of the guide things, they'll come back and they'll say, I never expected to see that. But when I look back at what I'm doing now, I realized they needed my help. I think they called me in,
Yeah.
and I think that freaks people out. I was like, yes, you absolutely are helping the version of you because they're probably doing something else
Yeah.
on a different problem
Well, I mean,
that
that's what I
you're
tell people,
doing
like
better at.
all your quote unquote past lives, right?
Yeah.
We're all of those aspects of you, whether it's in uh, a this another timeline or another lifetime, whatever verbiage you want to give it, we're all networked and we're all helping each other. And so I always say, like, when it comes to past lives, like, yeah, you can get readings, they're fun. And if a reading, if a life comes up, whatever, there's a reason for it. But everything is healed in the now moment. And if there's like we talked about before, like where I had burns that showed up on my neck from a past
Yeah.
life, right? Like there's things that I'm doing in this life that's going to heal that life and vice versa. We're always networked. And so no matter what variant or aspect, it's all happening for a reason. It's all working that way. And like you with my thing is my method is quantum embodiment technique. And I have people go about, there's a thing they do that puts it in, that makes it the technique that puts it into play, and they go about their regular lives. And the thing is they're invoking and asking that other version of themselves to basically step in as the driver of this human suit. And their only job is to become the observer. And what every time people notice, they feel different, they dress different, their mannerisms are different. And I love it because they're not trying to be something else, right?
That's just who they are. They're just
They're
doing
observing this
it. Yeah.
new version. They're like, oh my God, I want to, like this one
Yeah.
client,
Cool to see.
it was like Jessica Rabbit. She started to dress sexier, wear hair different. And it was like, yes, because that version that you want to be, that's how she is.
Yeah.
And so
That's the fun part.
It is, because
Yeah.
it's like, because a lot of times, like if you tell someone, then they're going to try to be that. But if you just say, hey, do this technique and let it happen and observe it, it's different and it's more powerful, in my opinion. And then they have fun with it. They're like, oh my God, that was so cool.
Well, Kyle Cease uses his scenario, which is I think it's called Kyle Leaguing or something like that, where you basically are just, you are bantering off like how we wanted to do with our letters. Remember, we wanted to pretend we were those versions. That's what Kyle Cease does. I forget the term. I'm sure one of our subscribers, Vicky, probably knows it. She's on. But basically, you're in that moment. So you just go back and forth of saying it is because you vibe it better, like you become that vibration. But it's hard. And guys, this goes back to the relationship thing. And we were saying, sometimes it's even harder, not even just romantic relationships, but friendships. It's hard when we're forcing ourselves to be in the same vibe and not really seeing the expansion of how cool it is to be different. And sometimes we have to vibe separate ways, but it doesn't necessarily, Kai Lego, that's what it's called. It doesn't necessarily, thank you, Vicky. It doesn't necessarily mean though, you have to be off each other's past forever. I mean, I've reconnected from people from my past who I did not think I was going to have back in my life, who I've blocked in this. But I also was at a maturity level now, which is way different than I was when I was younger.
Right.
Where I step back and look at it and go, all right, I have no idea what that person was going through, but I know what I did, which was based on insecurity because I was hurt. My feelings were hurt. Let me sit with it like an adult. See what my side is, right? Like I'm okay with taking accountability. But, I had to go through that step, some of the steps in my older ones of who I was going to let back in and who I didn't, and that's tough. That's not something everybody's ready to do. And it's okay. If you have to choose peace because you're not ready, 100%, that's still okay.
I'm a Scorpio rising. So for my fellow Scorpios, you know what I'm about to say. We are like, you're dead to me when we cut things off. Right. And that's how, your rising sign is your personality. It's how you show up in the world. That's how people see you. And so that's how I've always been. And so a few years ago, I changed that and I reached out to people who I had cut off. There's only one that I haven't reached out to, and I'm definitely not ready to reach out to her. But I reached out to all of them and I was like, hey, like, I just want to say I forgive you, and I'm sure there's things that I need to apologize for, and just kind of made it neutral and been like, hey, not necessarily do I want to be your friend or want you back in my life, but I want you to know, like, I'm over it. There's no animosity. I still have love for you. None of that. And some of those people, like, I love that you can see who's watching your TikToks, or not your TikToks, but your Instagram stories, because I'll see that people are the people that aren't talking to me that I sent, who never sent me a reply, right? Nobody ever messaged me back. They're watching me. And every now and then, some of them, I will go and stalk their Facebook and make sure they're still alive and still kicking and whatever, and that they're okay. It's because I still have love there. I don't necessarily want them in my life, but this is a new, evolved, healed version of me, because I have legit always been that Scorpio girl that's like, you're fucking dead to me. Don't ever talk to me. Don't say your name around me. Like, nothing.
It was, I have a hard time cutting people. If I ever get to the level of cutting off, it's really not just you're dead to me. It's at that point where I'm finally surrendering.
Yeah.
Surrendering to trying and trying and trying, because that's what I do with relationships, is that because of my loyalty, that I'm finally surrendering to the fact that it will never be able to agree. It's like that disagree to, agree to disagree kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I walk away sincerely with peace. I always thank that individual as much as I want to. Sometimes, you go through the anger, you get bitter and resentment, but you have to also look at that part that it really is not about them. I was very angry and bitter at myself.
Right.
But I was never angry and bitter at myself for loving someone at a particular time, because love is love, Yeah. It doesn't hurt. It's what hurts is our feelings. Our feelings get hurt, and that's
we're feeling
hard,
the grief. We're feeling the void of that person. I have been someone who has said this a million different ways and on a million different posts, but grief shows us the depth of love in which we gave to that person. And the reason why it hurts so much is because there's a void there, right? So you're giving, if I'm giving love to you and then you die, you're no longer reflecting that love back to me. And so it doesn't mean you stop loving that person. It means that the amount of love that you were giving to that person, you now have to give back to yourself.
Yeah.
You can still give it to them, but you have to also give it back to yourself. And so it shows you, the depth of love that the depth of grief equals the depth of love you had for somebody. And that's also equal to the depth of love you have to return to yourself while you're grieving, because that's what fills the hole.
Yeah.
Not somebody else. It's your own love.
Yeah, it's your own love, but also it's knowing that you trust an individual enough too, that say, hey, like, I really believe I've come, and this, I had a harsh lesson, and this wasn't like a young harsh lesson. This was like not even probably like 4 or 5 years ago. I had a harsh lesson when it came to believing people's words with their actions, because I was always one to think the best of people, or that they had the best intentions. But when you have individuals who are going through their own stuff, sometimes their best intentions is to feel safe. And sometimes that can really hurt an individual if they're going through something.
Yeah.
So I look at that rationality now, not at the time, but I had to take accountability that I was rose-colored glasses thinking the best of someone's intentions, when it was really just something that I was like, no, it can happen, it can still happen. But I had a trauma response, and I think people do that. They put people on a pedestal to realize they're not even that person. What are you doing? How many of those memes have you seen where people are like, oh my God, I dated dumpster trash? And then you have to go, oh my God, I have to take accountability for the fact that that's what I thought I deserved.
Well, like, okay.
Look at that.
Yes, that is true. But at the same time, I really need a nail file, so I'm sorry. It's also, we fall in love. So this is the thing. We fall in love with potential, especially people like us who can read energy and who can see their highest timelines. And Paul already knows this. And you guys, I will always talk about my people. not a lot of my family or friends watch my show, but some of them do. And Paul might be one of them. But he knows this, so it doesn't matter. Just to set the record straight. But I fell in love with his potential, and I could see his potential. But here's the problem. We can see their potential, but most of the times they don't even see their potential. And so, and this is such good conscious dating advice. As someone who has been dating and other people who are out there dating, if you want to consciously date, you have to take somebody at their face value. You can look at their potential and you can see it and you can say it's so beautiful, but you have to listen to what they say, because what they say is who they want to be. What they do is who they are. And you have to accept who and where they are. And I never did that. And this is why I've been married 3 times and engaged 2 times in between, because I fell in love with potential. And then my expectations were crushed and I was let down and resentful because I was holding them to the expectation of their potential instead of who they actually are. So they were never going to reach that. They were never going to be able to do it.
Yeah.
And that's something that we all need to be aware of,
I do. I had to do that with friendships too, though, where, you sit with a bunch of friends and they're just future tripping 24/7 about, oh, I'm going to do this one day. I'm going to just, and it gets to the point where they're like doing the same thing. And you're like, yo, you guys like realize all you do is bitch, complain, talk about other people in the sense of, oh, this is why I'm in the situation, whether it's people or the government or anything. Right. And then they get so fixated on everybody else did this to me. And then they're like, oh, well, let's just ignore it and do everything that I typically do, which could be anything that you escape to. But it's the same pattern over and over again. And some of those things like was really tough for me because even for someone who I game a lot. Right. And I used to play gaming in an unhealthy way. I used to use it to escape. And that became my comfort zone at a very, very young age with that. But
when I still start video games.
Might have been like 6 or 7. Oh, wow. It was before Atari. I think Contra was the one that I first played on. So I've been a gamer, and even like tabletop games and stuff like that. My grandfather loved to game. He also loved Nintendo. So I
can kick some ass in Nintendo.
Yeah. But anyway, long story short, when the multiplayer stuff came on and I was friends with a lot of people on there, it's a surface kind of relationship kind of stuff. But I was always one of the guys too in that level, right? I like to do things where you work together, but I also love to play solo games. But to me, it's kind of a social thing. And I don't like to always lead in games because I manage during the day. So I'm like, no, can we just shoot the shit and just tell me where you want to go and I'll shoot the gun. And that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
But, if someone's doing that 24/7 and it's like, that's all they can talk about, then there's something else more. You hear that?
Yes. Auntie Ho is here. You can't hear me. So her cats, we have a name. She gave me the name Auntie Ho for her cats.
Yeah. So, so this is how it broke out. No. She doesn't remember the story. So,
I don't.
So I said, I don't want, because we both got German in us. And I said, I go by Tante. And I said, but you can't use Tante. And I said, so I'll just say your German way. And I said, Auntie Ho. And you said, no, that's no, it would be yo. And then I started laughing. Because I was pronouncing your name wrong. Because
in German it's Johanna. It's with it's Y-O.
No, it's Johanna. And I was like, oh, I don't know why I called you Johanna. So that's how you became Auntie Ho.
There will probably be a sweater made at some point.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, if you're doing the same shit over and over again, or the people bitching about the same stuff, it's kind of like a dead video game is where I'm getting at. And so I was using that as a metaphor when I was gaming with some of these individuals.
NPCs, baby.
Yeah, it just becomes that. And you're like, all right, nobody's changing. Everybody's just, are you going to play different games? You're going to do something different here? So I love video games, but I don't have as much time because I'm living in a matrix. So I'm exploring the matrix now. But there is a new game I'm going to play that's coming out, Starfield. I'm excited for that.
I think it is kind of ironic how many NPCs or people, they're just NPCs who play video games and don't recognize the metaphor of the video game.
That they don't see it actually in their own reality that they're seeing.
No, it's like they're so like I don't know. Maybe it's because we're awake, but you see, like, you just see how, like, even with movies and music and art, everything inside, and the guides have always said this too, like everything inside this game is always trying to let us know that you're in a game, right? That it's there's everything is a metaphor, everything is a sign. Like, have you ever seen Fools Rush In, where he's like, everything is a sign? It's true. Like, everything is a sign, everything is a metaphor of some level, not the way that, every time you see, a butterfly, of course it's not a loved one, right? But it reminds you of probably the afterlife. So, like, in a way, everything is a sign, everything is a metaphor. And I just think it's hilarious when, like, when I was married, I started to try to use gaming language to speak to him, to get him to understand things, because I knew he would understand that.
You pause.
What?
Were you the wife that said, "Can you pause?" during a live match? Were you that wife?
No. But when we would be talking out, like, not when he was gaming, but when we were just talking about, like, he never understood the metaphysical world. He never understood, but I mean, he was there. He watched me go through it all, right? So I basically changed in front of his eyes. So a lot of things I would be talking about, he wouldn't get, and I would be trying to explain to him, like, what he's doing, because I was in my "I'm going to fix you" era, which we don't do that. But anyway, I started using gaming language because I was like, if I can get him to understand the game, but use it as a metaphor for what the fuck is happening, he'll get it. And he started to get it. You know what I mean? So it's like, it
when you start a gamer, yeah.
It blows my mind how many people who don't see the metaphor of the game in the game that they're playing a game within a game within a game.
So I'll tell you what, something goes in further. It actually goes both ways. Because, like, when I was married, I used to have things called gamecations. And so I didn't leave the house. I was just like, I'm on my headset. Do not come in my room. And I used to have a gate that I put up on the side on the door, and I had notes. And the game I happened to be playing when I did my gamecation was Dragon Age. So I had particular rules about coming in. Like, if you're talking about dragons, let's talk. If you're talking about Dragon Age, it's okay. But that was like my me time, my vacation thing. And I remember my ex, like, standing at the door, looking at the list and trying to talk to me in gamer lingo. He was struggling, but he was a good dude. He was like, he's like, let me go down the 3. Oh, wait, no, I can't mention that. So I went to the bar, and there was a dragon outside. So he was like telling me a story, but embellishing it like dragon. It was just funny. But, like, it goes both ways. If you can't speak someone's language, they're not gonna, it's good.
Right.
What they focus on is what they don't, understand. So not everyone is going to perceive you or see you in relationships or is ready for it. Right. I mean, like you said, even with friendships coming in and out, there's some people you're just not ready for. Now you're connecting to them again. You're like, well, now we're different people. Like, maybe we're the versions that like each other for once.
Yeah.
And then have you ever had the remember when people in your life? There's a South Park episode of it. That's why I was representing.
Well, yeah, because especially after going through the, evolving this much, you realize that you don't really have anything in common anymore or have anything to talk about. So you're constantly talking about the past.
Yeah. You're just in a loop. You're just in a, like, freaking loop. Or do you have those friends? Like, I have to laugh. I have a couple college friends that we still stay in touch with each other. But, man, it's so funny because, and we love each other regardless, but we can never get our shit together when it comes to actually talking or setting something up. So when we do, it ends up being maybe once or twice within the year.
Yeah.
But we are 100% more capable of doing it. But at the same time, it's like, oh, now I'm free, because it's like, all right, I got to make time. I got to situate this. But it's not so easy in groups anymore. When you get older, people are all more like, all right, I'm going to pick and choose, but I also know so-and-so's not going to be angry that I'm picking and choosing other people in my life. So it doesn't mean those people necessarily hate you.
Right.
Right. I mean, it could be very unconditional in a sense. I mean, I have a lot of friendships that are unconditional that way, and I consider myself lucky. And then the other ones who don't feel that get very upset, like, oh, well, we used to be such good friends. And then you think, well, I don't have anything in common. Like, what do we, bring that back? Or do I really want that back?
Right.
But I had to really look at that too, because I was like, I had a lot of people around me that I really didn't want to be with. And it was just, they were still there energetically, and it's like,
Well, and I think you don't let go of them because that means you have to fully let go of that version of yourself too.
Yeah, that's true.
And so when you let go of them, then, really what's left to hold of that, what's left, if there's no relationships connecting it, what's left. And we see this with contracts, and soul contracts, when I stopped enabling my father and was like, I have to go have my own life. And I ran away from my problems and ran across country to North Carolina. My dad was dead in 2 years, And so, and my grandma, 2 months, and those were my people, like those were my people, and that was my family. And now there isn't one, but I felt a lot of guilt for a long time because I thought I killed them. When I was newly in my awakening, right. I was like, oh my God, I ended this contract and now they're dead. And so I have that fear with my mom. I don't have the fear anymore, but I did have that fear with my mom too, because my mom's still alive. But it's the same way with friends, and I know that because the one friend that I haven't, her name was Nicole, and she was my best friend for a very long time. And the way that we ended things was horrible, and it was not. There's no way in any shape or form this was my fault, and that's why I think I have a hard time saying anything to her and reconciling it. But at the same time, like, I don't know who that version, she's been dead, gone long time ago. Like that, she doesn't even exist anymore. And so I have no desire to even send her a message, because it's like, I'm not that person anymore. Like that person, I let her go.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, even the people I block, I feel that too. Like I can't go back to that version of me. Yeah. And I don't want to.
Yeah. You don't want to give it any energy.
I just don't want to give any energy to her. It has nothing to do about, the guy or him. Yeah. It's just that, he was, one of my best friends at that point. So it was like, that was really tough for me. But I look at things so differently now, and I go, that really was just a version of me that was so broken in so many different ways. And I valued her for getting me up where I needed to be. Yeah. I found a lot, and I found things too that I'm now taking consequences for, because I was in a rebellious teenage portion of it too as well, and I had never sat with that version, the teenage version of me, which apparently was pretty pissed off, which is surprising because she was pretty much a good kid. I was goody two shoes. I was taught at a very early age, as long as you didn't get caught, you were good, and I was very smart and extremely manipulative.
Yeah.
And I had to sit with that in shadow work. I had to really sit with the manipulative part that hit a lot, because that's what she was taught. Hey, you won't get in trouble. And I was like, oh my gosh. All right. So how am I going to have to sit with her? Because this is the one who likes to keep secrets, apparently, and shadow work is not for lighthearted folks. I tell people
it isn't. And, and that's not just shadow work, that's parts work. And I went big into parts work a few years back. And, the thing that made the biggest difference for me, and the thing that I have learned to teach in different ways through the different courses I've done, is you really have to fully love and accept and allow that angry, manipulative, pissed off, whatever it is, version of you. They have a fucking right to feel that way. They have a right to be that way. And we can't judge it. The moment we judge it, we feed the separation. We further increase the separation.
Do you remember that 1 week where you and I were basically taking turns screaming in the car?
Yes.
Like we were in different locations, but we're like, we were both doing it. We're like, let's just try the screaming thing. And we both had sore throats. I was like, I'm sure there's and this happened to me, I remember, and I was here, but I was like, I'm sure there's people in the neighborhood that were like, was that woman just screaming? Traffic out here.
Y'all know I got a voice, so you heard me.
Yeah.
But that's my favorite thing to do. That weekend, that was 3 days. That version of me that I integrated, that was probably the gnarliest one. That was the one that I had I think Tanya's the only one that knows this until now, so I can talk about it now. But I had a therapist in my text messages because when a very big aspect of you, in my experience and in experience of people who have been through mentorship with me, when it's about to integrate, it feels like you want to kill yourself. It feels like death. It really does. And it's not every aspect's going to feel that way, but this was a major aspect of myself that came in from childhood. And I think I got in and out of my car that weekend. I can't tell you how many times where I screamed until the tears broke and I moved through the anger and into the grief. And then another wave of anger would come up and I would scream. I didn't have a voice. And I literally had my therapist in my text messages because I was like, I was very aware. This is a part of self-awareness, right? I was very aware that I didn't actually want to die, that this was a part of me dying. But I had to have the safety protocol of she will connect me with safety the minute I feel like this is out of my control and I can't help, I can't do it. And I know you have safety protocols of your own, but I'll never forget that experience set me up to understand aspects of myself and how to integrate them in a way that nothing in a textbook will ever fucking teach you.
Yeah.
It was gnarly. But I'll tell you, I have more love and self-respect for the parts of myself. I don't always agree with them, and sometimes I get annoyed, but I do, and I allow them to have their expression. It's super important.
So it is. And you're right. Everybody's going to have their own protocol. And that's something you really should sit with yourself on of how to, because when you're in the thick of it,
when you're in it,
you're in it. So you're not always able to say, oh my gosh, I'm going to reach out for help and tell somebody I'm going through psychosis. You know, like I'm going to lose my reality. I'm losing my mind. When you're not going in there, it's like, how do I make myself feel safe? What do I do? And people have all these tactics. I'm very open because I did a whole freaking video on this, and I pulled in one of my colleagues who was my mentor at the time, Anita, for the inner child work, was the video work, which is part of my mastering mirror.
Yeah.
But, I sat with a version of me that wanted to record a safe fail video of talking to myself to get myself out of it. Because what I do when I shut down is I shut off, meaning I'm going to go escape. I'm going to go hit play. I'm going to go hit play game. So I did a video so that I would just have to hit play. I knew what my lowest point was. I still, to this day, the only time I watched it was when I replayed it that evening when I watched it with the individuals who I did the show with. And that is the last time I watched it. And that was at least 4 years ago when I watched it. But that is my safe fail.
Yeah.
I never want to watch that fucking video.
Right.
I don't care what version of me talked on there and everything. It's so ingrained on me that I just left it there. And it's publicly out there. I mean, it's that's still out there to everybody. So, but that's something where I'm like, I don't need to rewatch that message. Right. But I can tell you this much. I've had people reach out to me from that video and said, I know you said if it just reached one, I think I'm the one, or this is that. You never know with your experiences too, when you don't think you can help one person, you have no idea. Like how Johanna had said at the beginning of this podcast. And if you guys weren't here, you should go back and listen. But complimenting, being nice, listening, or even stating something to an individual, you may be
saving their life.
You may be. And that
save their life.
So, yeah. And they're really saving their own lives. I have to point that out.
They're receiving it.
Yeah. They're just receiving the message, because I made that big mistake when I thought somebody saved my life because I didn't go somewhere at a particular time that evening. But I really saved myself on there because I took the time to listen to something that made me stop.
Yeah.
So give yourself credit when you guys are getting that and you are receiving it, that you are seeing your worth, your value. That's huge.
This comes back to something that you and I have talked about throughout the years, which is, there was a time where, and it's probably still going on, it's just not in my reality anymore, where people think that healers are out there to save people or to heal people or to fix people. And I've always been an advocate, because I've always been when I'm channeling or I'm healing, I am as pure as I'm going to get. I'm not perfect, but I'm pretty pure. And the guides have always said to me, you are a guide in the healing. So you are guiding, my energy is guiding their energy to find and realign and bring that healing. I'm guiding their energy. Their energy is still doing it. And this is why I always say, like, it's different than readings, right? You can send anyone in the world healing. And the reason why it works is because those who are willing to open their heart and accept it now are going to have that energy. Their energy is being guided, right? So they're getting assistance, but they're the ones who opened up and allowed it. They're the ones that are still doing the hard work of opening themselves up. And then you can send healing to somebody that's completely shut off and it doesn't work and nothing happens, right? So if you go to a healer and nothing happens, it's not necessarily that's a bad healer. It's you didn't open up, you didn't allow, you didn't make the space, you didn't receive. But it's not the same for readings, though, right? With readings, I think people need to have permission. But with healings, your energy's you're either going to open your heart and accept it or you're not. And
everything's about intention too.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is perfect, everything, especially the moon. I mean, I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I got 5 intention candles burning here. And I think the biggest mistake people make with intention, anything, crystals, whatever it is, it's your energy, it's your intention. Yeah. Even if someone's saying I'm charging it, you have to have an intention that you are receiving that charge and take the time to do that. Yeah. A lot of people don't take the time to do it. They light it, they go, it's not working. Or they're like, they're doing the same thing. They're saging, they're burning their list tonight, their list, but they're not really sitting and listening.
Yes. Like the crystals, the fire of the candle, whatever it is, it's just a magnification. That's it. It's just a magnification. Yeah. It's an assistance. It's a tool.
Otherwise, it's just a candle.
Yeah.
It's just a rock.
I mean, if you just pull a card, with no intention, what's the point behind the energy? You don't, it's not. So I agree with you. And that's why, there's a thing, I've been doing plant medicine for years, different types. It's always set and setting. And like you do, when I did ayahuasca, or when I did combo, half of the energy comes from the medicine and how it was brewed or made. The other half of the energy and the potency of the medicine comes from the intention of the shaman. And as a shaman, it is so important for me when I'm doing retreats or I'm doing anything to be very grounded in what the space I am holding and what I am, because that's all I'm doing as a shaman. I'm holding the space to guide, right? So when I did ayahuasca, the shaman that was brewing the medicine and that was holding the space, I didn't find this out until later. And that's my bad because I really should have really tuned into this before, but I think I just needed to have that experience with him. But he held the belief that you have to walk through the dark or hell, whatever, to heal your energy, to purge, to alchemize. And for the last 3 years, the guides have been very, very loud to me. You can heal even faster with joy. It is important to look at your shadows. It is important to look and own your darkness, but you do not have to walk through the dark to heal. And this is what a lot of people have called spiritual bypassing, where there is bypassing there. Don't get me wrong. People do bypass, but you can heal through joy. And there's scientific evidence that fucking backs this up, which blows my mind because I forget don't quote me on the numbers, but let's just go with these fake numbers for this moment. 200 repetitions, right? To reprogram a belief, right? But if you're doing it through joy and play, it's 10. And that number I can hold on to. It's 10 repetitions. So you can heal faster through walking the path of joy. And so I have already committed that I will do ayahuasca again, but I'm going to do it with a shaman who believes that you can heal through joy and love and not walk through hell. Because let me tell you, for those who listen to what happened to me in ayahuasca, I fucking walked through hell and I'm very familiar with it. And I don't recommend it. But I did it and there was purpose in it and I don't regret it. But anytime you go do any plant medicine, let that be something that sticks in your head. It's not just about the purity of the medicine. 50% is the energy of the shaman who's holding the space and facilitating it.
Yeah, and because what you vibe is basically what you're
infusing.
in. So you're infusing it.
Yeah.
So if you were going in this level of I need to focus on this, and it's something dark, you're going in with somebody here whose intention is to protect you from the dark. So you're calling in more darkness.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's.
And I had 3 people in my auric field, so I had no space, and all of these people, so, and as a transmuter and someone who's very, very sensitive, it was an experience. But aside from that, moon water, charging, I couldn't tell you the last time I charged my damn crystals in the moon, and I do want to do it. I'm just temporary. I haven't been able to. And so
I have
all that stuff
everywhere.
Do you?
I just use selenite. It's like, I don't got to clean it.
Well, yeah, I do that too. I usually just shove a bunch of crystals around my big selenite wands. But I used to love moon water, and I can attest that moon water works. But again, the moon was just magnifying my own intentions, because we all know about mystery moto and how water holds frequency. And when I had my apartment, I had one of those water machines with the big 5-gallon water things. Oh, yeah. I used to take an 8x10 sheet of paper, write the mantra or what I wanted to be infused intentionally into the water, flip it backwards so the words were right again, read right to the water, like, because that really makes a difference, in my mind it did. And I let it sit for 24 hours before I drank that water. So that whole 5 gallons was infused, and the molecules changed so that it was feeding my cells those words. Like, I was very intentional.
I did something similar, but I used to have those crystal bottles, where you have the crystals in the bottom, and I used to put it in there with it.
Yeah, I did that too.
So like, that was my easy way of doing it. But I like your way too, because you wrap yourself kind of around it. Yeah. I used to love to talk to my water too, because your vibration is really cool. So if you talk to your intentions in, and then you are drinking it in, and you are in that feminine energy, you got to be in feminine. So your feminine energy when you're drinking, especially, is you are really feeling it go down everything, and just kind of doing a slow body scan. Yeah. But I love that. It's my favorite thing to do, is just to drink my intentions and to feel. I do that a lot with my energy, because sometimes I'm feeling groggy and I'm like, all right, I am so energetic today. Yeah. I'm like, you have such amazing energy. It's just going to vibe right through you. And then I'll drink the water. Yeah. I feel a little bit better. And then
I do that with food too. So Ashley and I, last week we went somewhere and we got Mexican food. And for those that know me, I eat like super ridiculously clean. I don't eat any processed foods, seed oils, any of that. So when I eat out,
this is true, 100%.
It really affects my body I do like Mexican food. I love pizza. There's certain things that if you put chips and queso in front of me, the chances are I'm going to eat it. It's good, but it's going to hurt me. And so what I learned to do is I take my hands and I put them over the food, and I just feel my heart opening and pure love. And I'm so appreciative and so grateful. And I just infuse the food with so much love, and literally, and this is a lot of healer vibes, but I will feel energy coming out of my palms. And when the energy stops coming out of my palms, I know it's done. And I will tell you, 9 times out of 10, I don't die of a stomach ache, because I infused that food that was not the best for me, because my body's going, what the fuck is this? And it doesn't affect me as much. But when I don't do it, like one of the times I came to Ashley's, I was eating a big bag of chips, and we're having a party, and I'm just, oh, you can't put chips in front of me. I had no willpower that day. And I was like eating some. Literally within 10 minutes, I was buckled over in the road in pain. She's like, what's wrong with you? I'm like, I ate seed oil. But I didn't infuse intention into it. So my body was like, reject.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. All right. Well,
so have your intentions, people.
Have your intentions. I can't believe we're over an hour already, but this time flies when you're having fun. But guys, we are at the end of the show here. Thank you for joining us. And I guess I'll see you next time, Johanna. I guess that's next week already. What are we going to talk about then? All right. Take care. Bye.
Well, this has been fun. Thanks for joining us. Be sure to subscribe to get notified when we are